Good morning, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, Ramadan Kareem to everyone on the call today, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to attend today's webinar. My name is Omar Risk. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at GammaLearn, and I'll be taking you through a quick journey today to cover some of the aspects that we believe are of very pressing importance to higher education establishments, specifically when we're talking about assessments and conducting exams on campus and off campus, and what kind of challenges are they facing, pre, during, and post COVID, and what kind of solutions we have in place to support them with this. And the idea of the webinar and the takeaway from it would be to introduce you to this platform, the solutions, how to fit them right, depending on the colleges and the assessment schemes being done on and off campus. And we'll be more than happy to get in touch with you after the webinar and learn more about the specific unique challenges that you're going through and how we can definitely deliver a working solution based on that. As a beginning, just introduce you to who GammaLearn is and what do we do. GammaLearn has been established in 1988, and basically we started working on the premise of providing unique and niche solutions to the education and corporate and government sectors. And we specialize in producing very competitive technology solutions where it answers specific challenges in all of these different industries and in their specific domains, whether they're learning, training, assessment, accreditation, and more. And GammaLearn is a collection of technology solution providers, partners, subject matter experts. And although we exist in the UAE and the GCC region, we actually serve a large cluster of customers around the world, from the Middle East and Africa to Latin America, as well as Asia Pacific. And we have been very fortunate to work with global partners such as Microsoft to enable a massive digital disruption and digital transformation across all of the customers that we've worked with, from single colleges to ministries of higher education to universities with multiple campuses across a big geographical spread. Our work with Microsoft is exponentially growing to support more and more productivity solutions around cloud, employing AI to cover an end-to-end spectrum of workload automation, mobility solutions, and more. And with the strategic partnership, we are able to also provide to our customers very niche solutions, very timely solutions that meets the requirements, that meets their expectations within the time frame that they would expect it to be. You can definitely learn more about GammaLearn by visiting www.gammalearn.com and learn more about the partners and how you can actually reach out to our local and global partners as well, wherever you might be. Today, the solution we're talking about that will break out into the challenges we're going to be listing is SwiftAssess. And SwiftAssess is one of the platforms provided by GammaLearn, and it's been in the industry for about 13 to 15 years now, specifically focusing on the end-to-end lifecycle management of assessment in the training or education institutions. And although we cover every kind of education establishments from K-12 to higher ed to tertiary education to ministerial and more, today's focus is going to be how it works and services the higher education establishments. And while there is already a pre-existing nomenclature of tools and ecosystems in every university, starting from the learning management systems to the student information systems, we always find there's always a gap in these establishments to have a defined scope and a primary role for assessment dedicated solutions. And we find that the ecosystem requires all three to have a firm ground and foundation to operate on. And again, from a reference standpoint, we work across multiple different kinds of customers in higher education, from single colleges to complete universities to ministries of higher education as well, like the case we have in Egypt. And depending on where you are, you may have different language or localization requirements. So we cover up to 5 different localizations. And that just enables you to be able to provide a more personalized experience to your users. Now, since we're talking about higher education, and let's just focus on the last 2 years specifically, We understand that every college and every specialization have their own assessment requirements, some of which have mandates to conduct exams on paper or exams on campus or exams off campus or face to face based on maybe an oral exam scheme. There are many, many, many different formats of how this can be done. And because we know there's no one size fits all when it comes to higher education, we actually enabled a cluster of different solutions to accommodate the uniqueness and the variety of these assessment schemes and blueprints. And some of these specializations that are listed here, but you can find more about it by visiting SwiftAssess.com, are including engineering, medical and applied sciences, law schools, and so on and so forth. But today, we're not going to speak about a specific specialization. We're going to talk about the context and the concept in general. And then from the audience attending, you can apply it to your own college or to your own university by extension. So let's take a look at some of the challenges that we're facing today, especially they were highlighted and much manifested through the last 2 years. I mean, we for those of you who are working with on-campus assessment, regular mandates, you have existing challenges from tracking growth, device incompatibility of devices and connectivity issues, reliability of the network, cheating and proctoring, and so on and so forth. And there's always this shadow casted over digital examination sessions in general that it's not a reliable solution when it comes to assessments in general. So people would have to split between doing digital exams and doing a paper and mixing it up. Now, what we've done, and this is just a quick list of a couple of different solutions that have been very, very well received and have massively transformed these challenges into workable workloads. And these include solutions that are like on-campus offline assessment delivery in our solution that we call the assessment caching unit. And we're going to cover that in the next slide in a bit. Paper-based exams, but in a completely revamped version that transforms the traditional manual paper-based workload into a much more intelligent, much more redefined bubble sheet format that does not actually require any special investment in terms of paper, types, or scanner and printer. And as a matter of fact, you can just use existing hardware and paper types that you already invest in on a day-to-day basis, and have that also work hand in hand with your digital examination, as we'll see in the next slides. For colleges that are also conducting practical evaluations, lab-based experiments, on-field, on-site experiments, they require a differentiated form of mobility and mobile-first assessment rather than sending out the evaluators and the faculty members to do these on pieces of paper or in a manual format that has to be fed in later to a gradebook. So we also introduce things like the observer and the observational assessment tools. And since we're already talking about on-campus, we already understand that there are challenges regarding existing capacity of labs and device availability on campuses. So we, by default, support a maximum variety of device topology in institutions. We actually pride ourselves to be 100% bring your own device compatible, stretching from virtual desktop labs all the way to Mac and Windows devices, all the way to Chromebooks, iOS devices, and Android devices. So whether you're having a bring your own device topology for your learners and for your students, or whether you're using a fixed lab set of capacity, we support both of that. So we make sure that we close the gap and support and then make sure it's accessible to every one of your students. In addition to obviously doing that in a much more secure capacity. So on campus, you're already having a manual proctor overseeing the exam sessions by him being present in the room, but at least we make sure that these exams are running in a full secure lockdown environment, whether that's running on a tablet or running on a desktop, it's already there and it's in place. Now, because of this, we're now able to solve a very, very old yet very persistent challenge to all institutions. And I'm not just including higher education in this, it's actually capacitating everyone else from an education and training standpoint. You're able, with these solutions, to have a blended, seamless delivery when it comes to having digital exam sessions paired with paper-based sessions for students who don't have device coverage, they don't have enough devices, they don't have compatibility, there's no enough capacity on the same floor or in the same campus. So you can conduct the same exam without having to split the exam to 2 different days and reschedule and postpone and have social distancing to accommodate that. So with SwiftAssess solutions to deliver on digital and on paper, you can adopt that for the same test capacity. Now, let's talk about off-campus. And again, we've seen a huge spike of off-campus assessments, specifically in the very first year of COVID. And while this has always been a challenge because universities offer distance learning, and with that comes the remote assessment requirement. But at least for students who are actually attending, online, there is very little that we saw can be done by the university in an attempt to protect exam integrity, provide complete stability, provide proctoring, and so on. Some of these examples that we've seen out there is the tremendous overwhelming load of using, for example, Microsoft Teams or Zoom, etc., to conduct manual proctored sessions where you're asking your students to open the camera, open the mic, and do the exam while you have no control of what the environment holds, if they're using any invalidated material, some violating some exam integrity rules, and so on. So obviously, there's so many more challenges when it comes to students doing the exams not on campus: connectivity, inaccessibility, cheating, and proctoring issues, controlling the outcomes and measuring proper learning outcomes, and which affects our accreditation for any specific course, academic program in each and every college. So with that, we introduced a bunch of different solutions. And again, those were there before COVID, but we felt the need to make sure to highlight and bundle these solutions together for the institutions who are still running in a sort of a hybrid mode of digital on campus and off campus. So in addition to things like secure lockdown and bring your own device, you're now introducing the element of AI proctoring. So we're very fortunate to have paired with a great international partner that has been working with us for years now, and providing an end-to-end seamless integration with SwiftAssess to provide a complete borderless experience for your students to take exams using any device, from desktops to even mobile devices, which is a new addition, and not having any special requirements from a camera or microphone, so anything can work on a very low bandwidth. So students who have very bad internet connectivity can still make it because there will be some sort of offline streaming capability in place. And because we understand that different exams hold different violations in terms of customization, so not every exam should be treated the same way. We can customize the violations from enabling students to use a piece of paper, enabling them to have someone with them to assist them in case they have some sort of disability, and so on. So all of that can be customized in addition to obviously having a full-on proctoring experience. And with that also comes the point of integrating the assessments with learning and education and training and communication portals such as Microsoft Teams or even your learning management systems, where your students don't have to access 300 different applications. Instead, they can just use a single sign-on from one location, and from that point, they can already access other assessments. These integrations are available right now if you access the Microsoft Teams Store and you look for SwiftAssess, or if you have your existing learning management system, whether it's Blackboard, Moodle, Desire to Learn, Canvas, and so on. SwiftAssess offers a direct integration with your course learning activities. If we put it all in perspective, we're providing the best of both worlds, from multiple delivery channels to multiple security options. And the best thing about this topology is that it works together. You don't have to choose one in favor of the other, and you don't have to compromise for one just to make sure you accommodate the other. So your delivery topology includes everything in terms of digital as well as paper-based, running completely offline, whether it's directly accessing the platform or through additional or external third-party platforms such as Teams and learning management system. And while we're talking about very direct solutions to these challenges, we always say this to all of our customers and all of the faculty members and stakeholders we deal with: there is no silver bullet to solve cheating and proctoring and exam integrity. It's a mix of great solutions, parameters, and configurations that enables you to do that. As an example of this right now is, for example, exam watermarking. And while a lot of you may not be familiar with this concept, You deal with this on just the confidentiality of the documents that you pass on, or the watermarking of the transcripts, for example, you hand to your students. Watermarking applies itself to our digital exams and paper exams. So your students have a full on coverage of the screen with a unique identifying watermark for that student for that session. So if students try to use a phone and snap a photo and leak the exam on, let's say, social media or Telegram, etc., that unique identifier will ultimately lead you to the proprietor, and you can actually take the necessary legal action. This works across every single session, whether remote, on campus, so you can use that as one additional parameter and defense mechanism. Now, when we're talking about parameters, or let's say controls that are beyond just AI proctoring or secure, browsers, we can also look at test configuration. And SwiftAssess really offers a huge set of parameters that you can customize on per test basis, or you can make them into some sort of template that you can reuse over and over again. Just to give you a quick example, and for those of you who are already using or in the habit of creating items and creating tests, you can do things like the official, let's say, GRE exams or TOEFL exams, where students are only allowed to move forward, not backward. So they have a very limited navigation technique. And also adding timers, not just to the test level, but to the item level. In addition to, of course, having shuffling of fixed set items, or even having blueprint items. And this is one of the most powerful features in SwiftAssess, where not one student has a similar set of questions to the other students. You would have a unified scale by which every student gets a similarly balanced but completely different question set, which means you're combating cheating, but at the same time evaluating the learning and comprehension of these outcomes because you're using differentiated instrumentation to do so. Many more attributes can be applied in this case to facilitate and add to the integrity and the security of these exams, whether on campus or off campus. And again, we talked about this earlier, so I'm going to be highlighting three distinct solutions from what we discussed in the previous slides, just for a recap purposes. So AI proctoring, almost every university we know and we talk to has done it in some way or form, whether in a manual, fashion, or using some sort of online tool. But we're here to tell you, you don't have to invest in a separate AI proctoring solution and a separate assessment solution and a separate learning management system. We have a consolidated environment where all of these things plug in together, and you have full on control of the archives, what to do with it, privacy and encryption controls, and so on. The other thing, which is we covered earlier in the digital and on campus, we know the foundation of the network in some of the campuses may be frail. In some cases, if you're using the internet as the mean and the median to conduct exams, the internet can have a blackout. And in that case, you don't want to be in a situation where your students are in jeopardy of rescheduling the entire exam after wasting an hour or maybe 30 minutes of going through the test. The one thing you should know about SwiftAssess is, regardless the student environment, we're always conducting the test completely offline. So that's the first level of protection that undeniably helps the student basically survive any external impact. Let's say the Wi-Fi is disconnected, the internet is outage, there is no electricity around him, so he has no connection to a server. All of that is already solved by having an offline solution. And another level that we enable to make the campus itself offline is having this little solution here that we deploy on campus. And it automatically and intelligently receives the exam and the examinees and any needed assets to deliver these exams to your students inside their labs, inside the classrooms, however the topology is. So the beauty about this is, if you have no connection to the outside world, you're still doing the exam offline, no connection disruption. And when the students are done, they're pushing back the results, and the results are then synced back for grading and reporting purposes. And last but not least is the paper-based exams, where you don't have to really create things again on Microsoft Word and go and recreate manual versions yourself. This is a reimagined version of smart bubble sheets. For those of you who are very familiar with bubble sheets, the traditional concept is that I'm only limited to MCQs, whereas in this case, I'm having the multiple question types from open-ended to MCQs to multiple pages and multiple versions all at the same time. And it inherits from the very same test design that you create. So in terms of productivity and efficiency and security, we've got it covered for you. Now, we understand that we exist in an ecosystem and we respect every tool that the institution already invested in, and we need to make sure we're extensible by design. So, as we mentioned earlier, we can integrate with multiple different platforms like learning management systems, Microsoft Teams and Office 365, your Google Suites, your Banner, your Power School, etc. However, your student information systems are. In addition to a lot of different amazing, powerful APIs and integration connector tools that we can enable you to use directly, or you can even leverage professional services from SwiftAssess and GammaLearn to really do it on your behalf. And again, if you're using Microsoft platform technology today, and most of you may at least are using Outlook and maybe Microsoft Teams, you would know that the powerful integration extends to the same thing from single sign-on. So you have a unique identity for all of your students and controlling who really has access from who doesn't have access. You cannot really exchange your password. You can make sure you have complete identity and identification for the users. Two things like extended dashboarding for your own presidents and deanship and so on and so forth. So you can go beyond what SwiftAssess gives you inside and really externalize the data to your own, let's say, preference. Now, with all of this, you want to make sure that for on-campus and off-campus, you have a full-on understanding of what's happening during the exams. And one of the main issues that we've seen throughout the last 2 years is that there was no one tool that enables you to do proper tracking in real time. If students are doing through an exam, you don't know who started, who finished, who's stuck, who's suffering, or who has a technical issue. And our real-time dashboards, in addition to 30 plus other dashboards, can give you that perspective. You can provide in-time support for your students throughout the actual ongoing exam sessions. That gives you the needed perspective of providing 100% efficiency across all of your test delivery sessions. Again, not related to security, but it's related to efficiency. If we work with security but not deliver on the efficiency, your students will still have an unhappy experience. And we're trying to close all of these gaps together. And since we're talking about higher education, and this is again part of the productivity and efficiency suites, everything we do in SwiftAssess is outcome based. So your academic programs, their mappings from program learning outcomes to course learning outcomes to KPIs, how that extends to your assessments and your benchmarking reports for your local and even international accreditation report templates like ABIT and so on, is automatically done in SwiftAssess. We can customize them as per your formats and also extend our existing templates to support. So many case studies out there that can really explain what we've done in terms of digital assessment transformation. One that can be very helpful, and you can check it out right now. If you go to Microsoft case studies and you look up Saudi Electronic University, this case study has been fully covered by Microsoft to explain a digital transformation in 2019 from paper-based only university to a full-on digital disrupted online examination where 100% of the student population, more than 25,000 across 13 different campuses, conducting full-on digital exam sessions, fully AI proctored, not a single one even on paper, not even having the need to bring them on campus to conduct examinations in an unsafe environment. So this could be a great reference for everyone. We have around 15 minutes now to sort of go through the Q&A segment. So from my side, I will leave you with this slide.